My parents threatened to cut me off if I didn't pay off my sister's debt, so I called their bluff, walked away, and showed them I never needed their support. Before we dive into today's video, I truly need your assistance. We've noticed a decline in the channel's momentum, and subscribing is one of the most impactful ways you can offer your support. It's quick, it's free, and it enables us to continue bringing you fantastic content. Your backing means the world to us. Let's ensure this channel flourishes together. Thank you so much. Now let's get to the video. Hey there everybody. I've been a long-time lurker here, but I've never actually posted anything. I never thought I'd have a reason to. But my family has genuinely pushed me past my breaking point. I truly need to hear what others think. It seems like no matter what I do, I'm always cast as the antagonist, and frankly, I'm worn out. So, here's what's been unfolding. I'm a 30-year-old man now, and I've been self-sufficient since I turned 18. When I say self-sufficient, I truly mean it. Financially, emotionally, you name it. My parents, well, let's just say they wouldn't win any accolades for their parenting or sibling support. They weren't the kind of parents who championed you or made you feel unique. Instead, they had this unspoken rule that shaped my entire upbringing. My younger sister, Anna, could do no wrong, while I was expected to be the responsible one. If Anna made a mistake, and believe me, she made many, it was simply swept under the rug. She's just sensitive, my mom would say, or she'll learn eventually, which was code for, let's pretend this didn't happen and hope she figures it out. Meanwhile, if I so much as faltered, it was as if the world was ending. Why aren't you trying harder? You need to set a better example for your sister. It didn't matter what I accomplished, it was never enough. I could bring home a report card filled with A's, and they'd question why I didn't get an A+ in math. But Anna, she could barely scrape by, and it was, at least you're doing your best, sweetie. That dynamic didn't cease when we became adults. If anything, it intensified. Anna remained under my parents' roof until her mid-20s, drifting from one unsuccessful job to the next, always concocting some excuse for why it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, I was out here working 2 part-time jobs to fund my college education, learning to manage rent and bills independently. Not once did they offer me assistance, not that I anticipated it, but it stung watching them go above and beyond for Anna while I was left to fend for myself. Anyway, fast forward to 6 months ago. My mom called me. Now, you have to understand, my mom doesn't call just for a chat. She doesn't call to check in or say hello. When she calls, it's because she requires something. You know the kind of call I'm referring to, the one that begins with overly sweet small talk, as if they're trying to butter you up before revealing the true reason for their call. That's precisely what happened. She started with, "How's work? Are you still at that company? Have you been eating well?" It was so uncharacteristic that I knew something was coming. My mom doesn't care about my eating habits. She doesn't even know what I do for a living beyond something with computers. The entire conversation felt disingenuous, as if she was trying too hard to sound casual. Then she dropped the bombshell. Anna's in trouble. I wasn't surprised. Anna always seems to find herself in trouble, but I wasn't expecting this. Apparently, Anna had accumulated $40,000 in debt, and not the kind you can dismiss as youthful folly, like student loans or maxed-out credit cards. No, she had borrowed from some seriously questionable individuals, and now they were getting serious about wanting their money back. My mom's voice faltered as if she was about to weep, which I'm sure she believed would make me yield. She wasted no time in piling on the guilt. "You've done so well for yourself. You've always been the strong one. Anna's not like you. She needs your help." I sat there for a moment, attempting to grasp what she had just said. 40 grand? How does someone even manage to amass that kind of debt? I asked her how it happened, half expecting some absurd excuse, and my mom brushed it off. "That doesn't matter right now," she said, as if I was fixating on the wrong thing. "What matters is that she's your sister. Family helps family." That phrase, "family helps family," has been their convenient excuse for years. It's what they uttered every time they needed me to fix something for Anna, cover for her, or clean up whatever mess she'd created. And every time I'd stifled my frustration and done as they asked because I didn't want to be the antagonist. But this $40,000, I couldn't do it. Not this time. I told her no, unequivocally. I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't rescue Anna from a predicament she created." And just like that, the conversation's tone shifted. My mom transformed from pitiful to enraged in approximately 2 seconds flat. "You're being selfish," she began to shout. "You're abandoning your family when they need you most." She even interjected, "Do you want her blood on your hands?" As if Anna's poor life choices were somehow my burden. At that point, I hung up. I couldn't bear to listen anymore. My hands were trembling, and my chest felt constricted. But I knew I had made the correct choice. I've worked too hard to allow someone else's poor decisions to pull me down. Still, the guilt began to creep in almost immediately. My family has a knack for distorting situations to make me feel like the villain, and this time was no different. Even though I said no, I can't shake the feeling that perhaps I made the wrong call. Standing up to my family felt right in the moment, but now I'm left wondering if I've simply made everything worse. What if they're correct? What if I am being selfish? And honestly, I still don't know what comes next. That call was just the beginning, and what transpired afterward caught me completely off guard. I have a feeling this isn't over, but I'll keep you all informed as things unfold. I'll post an update soon. Update 1. Hello everyone. So I thought things might settle down for a bit. Perhaps she'd simmer for a while and then drop it. Turns out, I was completely mistaken. The drama intensified significantly, and honestly, I wasn't prepared for it. It's been an absolute mess, and I'm still trying to figure out how to manage it. Let me break it down. After I ended the call with my mom, matters went from bad to worse. I knew she wouldn't let it go, but I wasn't ready for the sheer volume of guilt-tripping and harassment that ensued. My phone was constantly buzzing. First, it was my mom with texts like, "We raised you better than this," and "You'll regret turning your back on your family." Then my dad chimed in with his opinions, even though he's typically the quiet type. His messages were brief and direct, like, "You're better than this," or "Do the right thing." But Anna went all out. She sent me this lengthy, complaining text about how her life was falling apart and how she didn't deserve to be abandoned. She included things like, "I've always looked up to you, and now you're just leaving me to suffer. And you're wealthy. $40,000 wouldn't even make a dent for you." That actually made me chuckle. Wealthy. Let me tell you, just because I'm not living paycheck to paycheck doesn't mean I'm swimming in cash. Her tone conveyed an unbelievable sense of entitlement. I didn't respond to any of them. I thought perhaps if I ignored it, they'd realize I wasn't going to budge and simply drop the matter. A couple of days later, I received a call from my aunt. She's one of the few family members I actually get along with, so I answered. She sounded awkward, as if she didn't want to make the call but felt obligated. She said my mom had been telling everyone in the family that I was refusing to help Anna and that I was letting her fail. According to my mom, Anna's life was in jeopardy, and I was simply standing by and observing it happen. My aunt didn't believe all of it, but she wanted to hear my perspective. I explained the entire situation, including the part where Anna got herself into this mess and expected me to magically resolve it. My aunt was surprised but offered support. She told me I wasn't wrong to say no and that Anna needed to confront the repercussions of her actions. Hearing that offered some relief, but the damage was already done. My mom had widely disseminated the story, twisting it to portray me as the villain. I started receiving texts from cousins, uncles, and even a couple of old family friends. Most of them were vague, like, "You should really consider what family means," or "You'll regret this someday." Some were overtly malicious. One of my cousins called me selfish and said I was acting as if I was too good for the family. I ignored them all, but the constant barrage was draining, and then things escalated. One afternoon, I received a call from my bank. At first, I thought it was a scam, because who actually receives calls from their bank? But the person on the line explained that someone had attempted to access my accounts using fraudulent identification. They flagged it as suspicious because the documents didn't match up, and thankfully, nothing was taken. I immediately knew who was responsible. Anna. It had to be her. She was desperate, and if she was willing to involve the entire family in this, why wouldn't she try to steal from me? I asked the bank for more details, but they couldn't tell me much beyond the fact that they'd temporarily locked my accounts as a precaution. I thanked them and hung up, but I was furious. This wasn't just guilt-tripping or emotional manipulation anymore. This was criminal. I need answers, so I'm considering confronting Anna directly. What would you all do if you were in my position? Thanks for staying with me. I'll keep you updated. Update 2. Hey again, everyone. You've been waiting for the confrontation news. Apologies for the delay. Here's how it unfolded. After I decided to confront Anna, I was still simmering with anger when I arrived at her apartment later that evening. I hadn't informed her I was coming, and honestly, I wasn't even certain what I was going to say. All I knew was that I needed to look her in the eye and hear her confess what she'd done. Perhaps a part of me hoped she'd deny it, giving me some reason to believe my sister wasn't the kind of person who would stoop so low. When she opened the door, she appeared surprised to see me, but not in a "what are you doing here" sort of way. It was more like she'd been expecting my eventual arrival. She was wearing sweats, and her hair was disheveled, as if she had just rolled out of bed. Not that I cared about her appearance, but it contributed to the overall vibe of, I don't have my life together. "What are you doing here?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe as if this were a casual visit. I didn't even bother easing into it. "Did you try to steal from me?" I asked, holding up my phone with the bank alert still on the screen. My voice was probably louder than it needed to be, but I couldn't help it. I was enraged. Her face froze for a second, and I thought, maybe she'll lie. Maybe she'll try to deny it. But no, instead, she rolled her eyes as if I were overreacting, and said, "Oh, come on, you weren't going to help me, so what choice did I have?" What choice did she have? I stared at her, dumbfounded. "Do you even hear yourself? You tried to steal from me because I wouldn't bail you out of your own mess? That's not just wrong, Anna. That's illegal." She shrugged, actually shrugged, as if we were discussing borrowing a sweater or something. "Mom and Dad said you'd come around eventually," she said, crossing her arms. "They told me to push you harder, that you'd yield if I made it serious enough." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You've got to be kidding me," I said. "They encouraged you to do this, to commit fraud? Do you even realize how absurd that sounds?" "They didn't tell me to commit fraud," she said. "They just said, you wouldn't let me fail if you thought I was truly in trouble. And guess what? I am in trouble. I don't have anyone else to turn to." I was so angry I could barely think straight. "You don't have anyone else to turn to because you've destroyed every connection you've ever had," I shouted. "This isn't just about the money, Anna. It's about the fact that you've never taken responsibility for anything in your life, and now you're dragging me into your mess because you're too self-centered to deal with the repercussions of your own actions." She didn't even flinch. "You're being dramatic," she said, waving me off. "It's not like I actually got anything from you. The bank stopped it, didn't they? So what's the big deal?" "The big deal," I said, "is that you tried. The big deal is that you thought you had the right to steal from me simply because you're too indolent to clean up your own mess. And the even bigger deal is that Mom and Dad think this is acceptable." That finally seemed to upset her. Her face contorted into a mix of anger and embarrassment, but instead of apologizing, she doubled down. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you?" she spat. "Just because you've got your fancy job and your stupid house, you think you can sit there and judge me? Well, guess what, big brother? You wouldn't be where you are without Mom and Dad. They sacrificed everything for us, and this is how you repay them?" I laughed, but it wasn't a joyful laugh. It was the kind that escapes when you're so utterly frustrated you don't know what else to do. "Mom and Dad didn't sacrifice anything for me," I said. "I paid rent at 18. I put myself through college. Every sacrifice they made was for you, Anna. They handed you everything on a silver platter while I was left to figure things out on my own. So don't even try to pull the family loyalty card with me." She didn't have a response to that, or perhaps she did, but she didn't vocalize it. Instead, she just stood there, glaring at me as if I were the villain in all of this. I couldn't take it anymore. "You know what?" I said, stepping back toward the door. "I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with Mom and Dad. And I'm done with this entire toxic family dynamic. You want to ruin your wretched life, fine, but you're not dragging me down with you." I left before she could utter another word. On the drive home, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles were white. I was angry, certainly. But more than that, I was wounded. Not just by Anna, but by my parents too. How could they deem this acceptable? How could they justify encouraging her to attempt something like this? When I arrived home, I sat down and compiled a list of all the steps I needed to take to protect myself. I called my bank to double-check that my accounts were secure. I changed all my passwords. I even contacted a lawyer friend to inquire about my options if Anna attempted something like this again. He told me I could press charges if I wished, but I wasn't ready to go that far yet. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I could have handled it differently. But deep down, I knew the truth. No matter what I said or did, Anna wouldn't change, and as long as my parents continued enabling her, she'd never have to. After the confrontation with Anna, I thought things couldn't get worse. I mean, how much lower could they sink? Turns out, I underestimated my family's knack for making bad situations even worse. It began about a week later. My parents appeared, at my house. No call, no text, just them standing on my porch as if they owned the place. I considered not answering the door, but I figured they'd just keep ringing the bell until I caved. So I opened it. My mom didn't even bother with a greeting. She pushed past me as if she had a right to be there, her face crimson with anger. My dad followed her inside, looking uneasy but clearly there to support her. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and prepared myself. "This has gone far enough," my mom yelled, spinning around to face me. "We need to talk." I crossed my arms. "I think we've already said everything that needs to be said." "No, we haven't," she said. "You need to cease this foolishness and help your sister. She's family. She's your responsibility." I stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. My responsibility? She infuriated me. Anna is a grown adult who created this mess for herself. I'm not her parent, and I'm certainly not her ATM. My mom's face twisted, in frustration. "Do you think we enjoy asking you for help? Do you think this is easy for us? This is about family loyalty. You don't just abandon your family when things get difficult." I laughed bitterly. "You mean the loyalty you exhibited when you charged me rent at 18? Or when you made me pay for my own college while Anna had everything handed to her? Or how about when you allowed her to mess up repeatedly and just expected me to fix it?" "Yeah. No thanks." My dad finally spoke, his voice low and serious. "Do you think we've had an easy life, raising 2 kids and trying to give you both the best we could? We sacrificed so much for you." "Stop," I said, cutting him off. "Just stop. Every sacrifice you made was for Anna. Every time something went wrong, you went to extreme lengths to fix it for her while I had to fend for myself. And you know what? That's fine. I don't need your help, and I never have. But don't stand here and lecture me about loyalty when you've been enabling her poor behavior for years." My mom's face turned bright red, and I could tell she was about to lose control. "If you don't help her, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life," she hissed. "Do you want her to end up on the streets? Do you want her blood on your hands?" And there it was, the same guilt trip she tried to pull during that phone call. I felt my blood boiling. I just didn't comprehend their reasoning. "I'm not responsible for what happens to Anna," I said. "She made her choices. If she ends up on the streets, that's on her, and on you, for never teaching her how to be accountable for her actions." My mom was practically trembling with rage at this point. "Fine," she spat. "If this is the kind of person you want to be, don't expect us to be there for you when you need us." I laughed, but there was no amusement in it. "I've never needed you," I said coldly. "And after this, I never will." For a moment, the room was utterly silent. My dad looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. My mom just glared at me, her chest heaving as if she were about to explode. Then, without another word, she spun on her heel and stormed out. My dad followed her, but he paused at the door to give me one last look, a mixture of disappointment and something else. I couldn't quite identify, perhaps regret. Then he left too. As soon as the door closed behind them, I felt this overwhelming sense of relief. I didn't care about their approval, or their guilt trips, or their toxic notion of family loyalty. I was finished. But of course, they weren't. The next day, I received an email from my mom. It was lengthy and rambling, filled with the usual guilt-tripping nonsense. She accused me of being ungrateful and cruel. She said I was abandoning my family in their time of need, and that I'd broken her heart. She even hinted that she and my dad might disinherit me, as if that was supposed to frighten me into submission. I didn't reply. What was the point? Then Anna started up again. She sent me this dramatic text about how she was losing everything and how it was all my fault. She said she'd had to sell her car, that she was behind on rent, and that she was being harassed by her creditors. Honestly, I didn't feel bad. She created her own predicament. Now she had to deal with it. A few days later, I received a letter in the mail, not from my family, but from a lawyer. My parents were threatening to sue me. The letter asserted I had a moral obligation to support Anna, and that I'd irreversibly harmed the family by refusing to help. It was truly laughable. I forwarded the letter to my own lawyer, who assured me it was utter nonsense. They didn't have a legal basis, and nothing would come of it. But the fact that they even attempted that was it for me. I was done. Done with Anna, done with my parents, done with the entire toxic family dynamic. I blocked their numbers, removed them from social media, and informed the few relatives I still communicated with that I wasn't interested in hearing anything about my parents or Anna. Most of them understood, though a couple tried to convince me to find a way to make peace. I quickly shut that down. Peace wasn't possible with people who viewed me as nothing more than a safety net for Anna's poor decisions. Here, where I am right now, I feel wretched. Do you think it's normal for a family to go this far? Final update. Hello again. I decided to write a final update once I had everything sorted out. So here it is. After consigning that lawyer's letter directly to the trash and forwarding it to my own lawyer just in case, I finally made a decision that had been gradually taking root. For years, I was going no contact, completely and permanently. I had been clinging to some small, fragile hope that my family might change, but the lawyer stunt was sufficient proof they weren't going to stop. If anything, they were intensifying their toxic behavior, and I wasn't going to allow them to drag me any further into their chaos. So I went full-on block mode. My mom, my dad, Anna, everyone got the chop. I blocked their numbers, their emails, everything. Honestly, pressing that block button felt strangely satisfying. Then I went through my social media accounts and erased them from there too. There was no way I was leaving any openings for them to slip back in. I sent a quick text to the few family members I actually like, mostly cousins, letting them know I was finished with the family drama and asking them not to serve as messengers for anyone. Most of them were understanding about it. But of course, a couple hit me with the familiar, "but they're your family" guilt trip. My response was short and sweet. Being family doesn't mean you get to treat me terribly. The most difficult part was explaining the situation to a few mutual friends who knew my parents. Some of them couldn't fathom what I was telling them. They literally couldn't comprehend the fact that my parents and sister had tried to steal from me, guilt me, and now sue me. One friend even asked, "Are you sure there's not more to the story?" As if I had somehow omitted the part where this was all my fault. I felt awful, but I let it go. The people who truly mattered believed me, and that was enough. The first week of no contact was challenging, not because I missed them, I didn't, but because they didn't give up easily. Even with their numbers blocked, they found ways to reach me. My mom started calling from unknown numbers, leaving these lengthy, dramatic voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart. She'd say things like, "We just want to talk," or, "You're punishing us for trying to do the right thing." It was exhausting. I didn't listen to most of the messages. I just deleted them as soon as I realized who they were from. Then there were the letters. My parents must have gone straight from their lawyer's office to the post office because the letters started arriving almost immediately. At first, they were mostly incoherent. My mom writing pages and pages about how much she sacrificed for me and how I was breaking her heart. My dad chimed in too, though his letters were more direct. One of them actually said, "If you don't help Anna, don't expect us to ever forgive you." Forgive me for what, exactly? For not letting my sister steal from me? For not enabling her poor decisions? The sheer impudence of it was almost comical. By the second week, their messages went completely unhinged. My mom's letters became desperate, almost frantic, tossing out vague threats like, "You'll regret this someday, and you'll be sorry when it's too late." It was all guilt and impending doom, as if she was trying to frighten me back into line. My dad, however, held nothing back. His letters were outright venomous, calling me selfish, ungrateful, and arrogant. He ranted about how I'd forgotten my origins and was betraying the people who made you who you are. It wasn't just guilt anymore. It felt like they were attempting to demoralize me, as if they couldn't stand losing their control over me. And then, there was Anna. Oh, Anna wasted no time playing the victim. She sent me this long, handwritten letter, likely because she knew I'd block her emails, stating how much I'd hurt her, how she couldn't believe I'd abandoned her in her time of need. She wrote things like, "You've always been my foundation, and now you're just leaving me to drown, and I thought you cared about me, but clearly I was mistaken." But I just couldn't believe her audacity. She ended the letter by asking for money. Again, not $40,000 this time, just a small loan of $5,000 to help her get back on her feet. She even promised to pay me back as soon as things got better. I laughed so hard I nearly cried, as if I would fall for that after everything she'd done. But my mom went into full crazy mode by appearing at my office. Yes, she actually showed up at my workplace unannounced. She stormed into the lobby, demanding to see me, and when the receptionist wouldn't budge, she lost it. She started yelling, loud enough for the entire building to hear, calling me a horrible son and screaming about how I was destroying the family. Security had to intervene and physically escort her out. I stood there, watching the whole thing from the mezzanine, completely paralyzed. My coworkers didn't utter a word, but their faces showed pure shock. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. That was it. I'd had enough. I wasn't just angry. I was done. That night, I contacted a family law attorney, not the friend I'd casually consulted earlier, but an actual professional. I laid out everything, the harassment, the entitlement, the sheer insanity. She listened, asked a few pointed questions, and then told me precisely what I needed to do. The next day, we drafted a cease and desist letter. It went out to everyone, my mom, my dad, Anna, even their lawyer. It was crystal clear. Contact me again, and I'll take legal action. No exceptions. I didn't think they'd actually stop, but shockingly, it worked. My mom's calls ceased, the nasty letters disappeared, even Anna, queen of the guilt trip, went radio silent. Now, 6 months after severing ties, life feels different. Quieter, lighter, and honestly, better. It wasn't easy, but choosing myself over the constant chaos of my family was the best decision I've ever made. Of course, not everyone comprehends it. A few relatives still hit me with the same tired line. But they're your family. You know what I say to that? Family means nothing if they don't respect you. Blood doesn't grant anyone the right to disrupt your peace. You don't owe anyone your time, money, or sanity just because you share DNA. Boundaries aren't harsh, they're essential. And honestly, cutting them off was the best thing I've ever done. With the drama behind me, I immersed myself in work, and finally earned a promotion I'd been pursuing for years. The little I've heard about Anna indicates she's still struggling. She's working part-time now and residing with a friend after losing her apartment. I don't feel bad about it anymore. She made her own bed. My parents are still disseminating their version of the story to anyone who will listen, but fewer people are believing it these days. It's liberating not to care. I've also started reconnecting with people I'd lost touch with. Friends, a few cousins, and even opened up to someone I'm currently dating. They've been incredibly supportive. And for the first time, I feel like I'm surrounded by people who genuinely respect me. To anyone dealing with a toxic family, I understand how difficult it is, but it does get better. Cutting them off felt like pulling off a bandage, but the peace that followed was worth every painful moment. You owe it to yourself to choose peace, to choose you. Thanks for reading.